Welcome to the PodoTron Network.
You know, it doesn't matter what walk of life you come from, your race, religion, whatever. Chances are that the legacy of HBCUs and their graduates affect more than one aspect of your everyday life. HBCU ubiquity.
Yeah. Welcome aboard.
Welcome to the new HBCU Ubiquity podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Joyner Jr. Thanks for tuning in on today. Question, and this one should be fairly easy. Although I'm sure that you can name an HBCU alum running for Vice President of the United States this year, can you name any HBCU alums running for the U.S. Senate? I'm not going to give you that answer, but keep listening. You'll hear in a few minutes. Believe it or not, there are several races up and down the ballot and all over the country this November that feature alums of our schools. To discuss them and break it all down, I'll be joined by Ms. Stefanie Brown James, co-founder and chair of the Collective PAC. Now, the Collective PAC is a 501c4 political action committee created for the purpose of assisting candidates and campaigns to get more African Americans into elected offices. Launched in August of 2016, they have so far supported 55 candidates to win general elections at the local, state, and federal level. Election day is around the corner, and we have a lot of information packed into this episode, so let's get started. Welcome to the new HBCU Ubiquity podcast. Welcome back to the new HBCU Ubiquity podcast. Here to talk election 2020, I'm joined now by Howard University alum, longtime and still rising political insider, and co-founder and chair of the Collective PAC, Ms. Stefanie Brown James. Stefanie, let's start off with the obvious and talk about the Kamala Harris effect on this year's election in the Black electorate.
I mean, people probably have never heard of some of these universities that you now are hearing so much about AKAs, about the Divine Nine, about Greek life. People are like, wait, what is this whole culture that I knew nothing about that has now had a light shown on it because of Kamala Harris? So I'm super excited for our culture to be seen in a much bigger way now.
The Kamala effect is interesting to me because here we are 12 years after when Obama ran in 2008. And to this day, the Obama effect, whether it is policies like LGBTQ rights or green, or even a slate of progressive Black candidates that are still running from top to bottom. In fact, I guess kind of Kamala is a culmination of the Obama effect.
I'm
curious to see it as to how this pushes out and plays out well past even November, wherever it happens.
Yeah, I mean, and we were already starting to see a lot of it build up. I mean, this is a record-setting year. We're saying this is the year of the Black candidate. I mean, the Collective alone has endorsed 156 Black candidates on a local, state, and federal level. Out of that number, 101 are Black women. And so we continue to see people step into the ring and say, yeah, I want to run for office. And of that amount, more than half are running for local and state offices. And so, a lot of times we hear about the people running for Congress and, at the presidential level, but there are so many folks that are running for city council, that are running for mayors, that are running for state representatives. And so that Kamala effect with the still, residual aftershocks of the Obama effect, I think will just continue to catapult Black folks into more positions of power.
Well, hold up, Stefanie, before we get into all those other races, let's talk real quick about how big is the Black vote potentially in 2020, and how important is it to the overall election result? In other words, I guess what I'm getting at is I keep hearing the last 2 months about suburban white women as an example. Mm-hmm. What about the Black vote? What can we really expect from that? Or better yet, what's the true potential of that?
Oh, listen, the Black vote is everything this year. I mean, we said that in 2016, and I think that 2016 showed us that. I mean, we had over 10 million quote unquote progressives who stayed home and didn't vote, who were eligible to vote, that did not turn out to vote. Many of them Black people who were registered to vote who did not turn out to vote. And we see what the results have been now, 4 years later. And so the Black vote continues to be the vote to get. Yes, we know Black women are going to turn out at an exceptional rate. We have to really make sure that we have these conversations with Black men on how important their vote is. Like literally, you know, we want to change all these laws that we know do not benefit our communities. We have to change the lawmakers, and we can only change the lawmakers by changing our perception of the importance of voting. And it's extremely important. And all across the country, we hear about battleground states. Everywhere you are matters to voting, because you have the power to pick, you know, what day is your trash going to get picked up? What kind of curriculum is going to be in your school your kid's school district? You have the power to pick the folks who make those decisions, as we've seen with the corona, you know, virus response, how differing that's been just by who's in office. And so the Black vote is everything this year.
So, you know, in terms of HBCU alums on the ballot, I guess the second most important race would probably be the U.S. Senate race in Georgia, Raphael Warnock. What are your thoughts on that race?
We're so excited for him. We've been supporting Reverend Warnock from day one. I mean, this is now, and let me say something with this seat, because it is a special election seat. He's actually in a like runoff kind of situation. So there's an election in November, but also in December. So he has kind of he kind of has a special situation with his seat. But I mean, definitely between Jamie Harrison, who's running for Senate in South Carolina, you have Adrian Perkins running. Let me tell you, the South is where it's at this year. Adrian Perkins is in Louisiana running for Senate. Mike Espy is in Mississippi running for Senate. And then Marquita Bradshaw is running for Senate in Tennessee. So when we talk about like shifting the political landscape, we know that everything comes down to what happens in Congress, who runs the House of Representatives and who runs Senate. And Democrats are really, you know, working to flip the Senate. And one of these Black candidates that's running right now could be that deciding factor.
Let's talk about that one for a few quick seconds. Starting in Mississippi with former and fellow Drew Hall alum Mike Espy.
Yeah.
Second time running. What are your thoughts on second time the charm?
Definitely second time the charm. He should have won the first time, because the person that he's running against is just an outright known racist who doesn't have any problem showing it. And I don't think that the state of Mississippi wants to continue to be represented by people that don't have the best interests of all Mississippians in mind. You know, my family's from Mississippi, so we're from Jackson. And so I have a real personal kind of tie to the state. But, you know, Mike Espy, I mean, he has the background. He's been able to, you know, to work in the presidential administration. I mean, he's someone who has served as an assistant attorney general in the state of Mississippi. And so, I mean, this man, you know, he has the experience, and we just think that, you know, as he continues to raise money, that he can get over that finish line, but he has a great shot to win this race. And
how about the other big one? There are, of course, several big ones, but also South Carolina, because now the media is reporting that this brother could win. He could actually topple Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, I mean, just the thought of it just brings me so much joy and pride. I mean, to be honest, Tom, like this is the race right now. Aside from the presidential, Jamie Harrison running for Senate in South Carolina with the potential to beat Lindsey Graham, who they are neck and neck in the polls right now. Mm-hmm. And they are neck and neck when it comes to fundraising. I mean, just last quarter, Jamie raised over $10 million. That is unheard of in a Senate race in one quarter. And so he's been able to really show that he has, again, the best interest of everyone in the state in mind. Yes, he's going to champion and push forward issues that impact the Black community. But what impacts us and what policies that we need is what everyone needs. We need to have healthcare that works for all of us. We need a strong public education school system. And he's championing and talking about these issues in a way that's getting white voters in South Carolina to say, okay, I see him. That's getting Black voters who didn't vote in 2016 to say, all right, let me register to make sure I can support this brother in November.
So you're telling me that we could have two Black senators from South Carolina. Don't play with me, Stefanie. Don't put my emotions like that.
Incredible. And you know, and I mean, again, we just had a recent event for the Collective that said the South has something to say, because I mean, you see these candidates, you know, I look at a Joyce Elliott who's running for Congress in Arkansas, Pat Timmons, who's running for Congress in North Carolina. In North Carolina alone, we've endorsed over 20 people. from the state level all the way up to congressional races. The South is where it's at when it comes to not just Black candidates, but the potential for Black voter turnout. You know, when Joe Biden was able to get the votes from the primaries out of South Carolina, that's what tipped him over the edge. And those are Black voters. Same with when he was really able to put the nail in the coffin when he got so many voters out of Mississippi. Those are Black voters. So again, our vote is where it's at in this election. We just have to make sure that all of our folks are registered, that they know that if your state allows it, you can vote early. And if not, be prepared to vote on election day with your tennis shoes, your water, and maybe your folding chair.
And what's that website again for the Vote HBCU initiative?
You can go to votetolive.org, where we have a bunch of info to help you with resources to know what you need to vote. But if you go to votetolive.org/vote-HBCU, you can learn specifically about our work to get HBCU communities, either if you're a student, if you're a staff, if you're an alum, you just love HBCUs, you just love Black people, you can go there to make sure that the school that you love is registered and a part of our program, because we're really doing all we can to help our students register their peers for this election.
And I love that you all are playing so hard in these swing states. What are some of the other notable congressional races featuring HBCU alums that you have your eye on right now?
Featuring HBCU alums. Now, see, I wasn't ready for that one, Tom. I gotta be honest.
This is Thomas Joyner Jr., and you're listening to the new HBCU Ubiquity. Yeah. Well, hold. I can prod you along with that one.
Yeah.
One of the ones that's really interested in me in the last couple weeks or months is out of Missouri, St. Louis, Cori Bush.
Cori Bush.
Harris
What school did Cori Bush go to?
Harris Stowe.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
And she came out of, she actually in the primary defeated the Democrat incumbent, and now might actually end up, taking that seat. But you don't really see that in the Democrat primaries too much, where Democrats get primary and end up losing. That's more of a a Republican thing.
Yeah, I mean, the collective, we have a position where we don't endorse in races where there's more than one Black person running. That's like,
okay.
If they're both like qualified folks. Now, if one person clearly doesn't have the interests of Black people in mind, we will play in that primary all day. But in a situation like this, Cori Bush is running against Lacey Clay, who was a member of the CBC, long-term congressman from the area. And she's been an activist. She's been out in the community. And I just think people wanted to see a shift in leadership. And so Cori Bush won that primary. People didn't think that she was gonna win. But let me tell you, organizing matters. Talking to your community members, being out there, being vocal, showing up when you're not just running for office, but just because you are a concerned community member. I think that's what got Cori Bush over the edge. And like you said, we don't normally see where people are challenging, sitting Black Congress people. But, that is one of the shifts that we're starting to see, where people saying, hey, I'm going to put my hat in the race and let's see what happens.
Any state house or state senate races that you're keeping your eye on? Any of those a part of the 100+ candidates you have endorsed?
Yeah, you said state house races?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what are some really good state house races? And I wish I knew the HBCU ones. You got to come back to me on that one time.
No problem. No problem.
Revisit that one.
No, but HBCU or not, who would you pick right now, say a rising star that you would want us to keep our eye on without jinxing him or her?
I think Adrian Perkins is one. Again, he's running for Senate. He's the current mayor of Shreveport, Louisiana. He is someone that went to Harvard, but also joined the military because he got inspired after 9/11 and decided to serve his country through the military, but then came back home after graduating from Harvard to become the mayor of, Shreveport, where he grew up. And so I think Adrian Perkins is definitely one. I mean, he's not even 40 years old yet.
Wow. Okay.
I think Cynthia Gordon, you talked about someone that's running for state seat. I think Cynthia Gordon is definitely one out of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. I think Desiree Timms out of Ohio, who's running in the Dayton area of Ohio for Congress. Again, we're having a lot of people who, and I just say that, there's this thing about people leave home and never come back. we've seen a lot of people that go off, they get educated, they go to an HBCU or another college, but then they're all coming back to, really work to make sure that they're helping to improve their communities. I think Desiree Timms is one of them, again, under 40 years old. There's a lot of young candidates right now. So those are kind of some of the folks who I definitely have my eyes on for the long haul to see where they go in politics and representing their communities.
Next generation.
Candace Valenzuela.
That's Texas. Right. Yeah, she's running for my district.
Oh, that's your district? Oh, okay, cool.
That's my district.
Yeah, listen, Candace Valenzuela, we're looking forward to her winning against the woman that we definitely hope loses. But I mean, Candace Valenzuela has the potential to create history as the first Black Latina in Congress. So that is Mondaire Jones out of New York running for Congress. He would be the first openly LGBTQ man, a Black man in Congress. So that's extremely exciting. Jamal Bowman, who was a high school principal, who's running for Congress out of New York. So there, and these are folks who also span the ideological spectrum of, not all Black candidates are like the most progressive, but they really have like a wide kind of ideological like perception on policies. And so we are well rounded out here when it comes to Black candidates. And
Bowman's another one of those. He's kind of like, I don't know if sorry for the sports analogy, but he's kind of like Denver Nuggets right now of candidates. He's come a long way against all odds in the last couple weeks or months.
Listen, again, so many times people count out Black candidates before they're ever even really able to get into the race good. And so, Jamal Bowman, Cameron Webb in Virginia, he would be the first Black physician in Congress who's a practicing physician. These candidates, all they need money early, they need support early and often. Like that's what they need. And when they're able to get that, they can be successful. We just have to make the investments in these folks. We got a strong bench. I can tell you that.
Great. Stefanie, the Collective PAC seems to be involved in, or better yet, supports a lot of races, as you've mentioned, with cash and or boots on the ground. Based on what you're observing right now, how concerned are you about voter suppression?
Yeah, I am always concerned about voter suppression. I mean, if anything, what we continue to see play out in Georgia is that voter suppression is a tactic that the right will continue to use to dampen, especially Black voter turnout. But I would say what I'm most concerned about is because the voting laws for each state is so different. I want to make sure that everyone knows what they need and how they can vote. And so if you're in Ohio, if you're in North Carolina, you have vastly different ways in which you can vote. North Carolina, people have already started to receive their ballots and turn their ballots in. As of last week, 3,500 Black people had already turned in their mail-in ballot. That's great progress. But we just have to be able to make sure that people know the rules for their state, that they follow it, that they have the right protocols in place when it comes to, keeping themselves safe from coronavirus. And so that's really what I'm concerned about, is that voter education component of it. And yes, it is okay to vote by mail. It is safe to vote by mail. And if that's the choice that you want to make, do it early, get your ballot in as soon as possible. But yeah, I would, that's what most concerns me.
So hold up. So back to what you just said. The mail-in ballots already been coming out of North Carolina. Those are already eligible, so to speak?
Yeah, so people who requested their mail-in ballots have already started to receive them. On September 4th, they actually sent ballots out to those who requested them. And so people have already voted. That's what it comes down to. So votes are already put forward. And you have a number of states that will start to have ballots going out. And so that is something that people still have time to request absentee ballots, or, if they want to get a mail-in ballot, if their state allows it. So the best thing you can do really is to go to your Secretary of State's website to get your state specific information.
Yeah.
A lot of folks also go to like vote.org. Again, on votetolive.org, we have some information up on our website. But yeah, you want to check out the laws for your state to know how the deadlines of when things need to get done. But also, you can still vote on election day too. That's also definitely an option that people should still keep. But they got to have a voting plan. What's your plan to vote?
Right. Stefanie, in closing, the next cycle basically begins on November 4th, right?
Yeah, we mean next cycle. You mean like
the next election. So my question is, after all this is over, what should we be checking for next year in terms of any races, any candidates that you want to put in our brains now, so to keep the momentum going, so to speak?
One thing I would definitely say is, because participating in civic engagement and, it is a 365 thing. And so, once people are elected into office, give them some time to settle in. Most people, they're going to get sworn in the top of the new year. Make sure you go see them, visit them, talk to them about what they promised, talk to them about how you want to be involved in them being successful, because it makes your community successful. And so that holding accountability, the accountability portion of voting and civic engagement is important. We have to vote, but then we also have to make sure that the folks we voted for are actually pushing policies that will benefit us. So that's one. And then we're going to start to see a bunch of mayoral races start up. We've seen a huge rising tide of Black folks running for mayors in cities all across the country. And so we need to be on the lookout for that. Every 2 years we have congressional races come back up. So it's a 365 cycle. And the biggest thing is knowing that, you can play a role in every part of the process as a voter.
Well, Stefanie Brown James, thank you so much for your time today. And once again, for everybody, if you did catch it, the first couple times, votetolive.org/vote-HBCU.
Yes.
Get involved, get active, and be a part of the process. By all means, vote.
Vote, because your life depends on it. Vote
That's
to
right.
live.
That's right. Stefanie, thanks a lot, and we'll be talking soon.
Okay, sounds good, Tom. Thank you.
Welcome back to the new HBCU Ubiquity podcast. Shout out to Stefanie James and everybody at the Collective PAC. Like Stefanie said, HBCU alums and students can really be a difference maker this time around, and the Collective PAC is doing their part to make that happen. VoteToLive.org/vote-HBCU. One more time. VoteToLive.org/vote-HBCU. Is your voter registration current and valid for November? Check just to make sure. Are you registered to vote? If not, take care of that right now. In most states, you're talking a quick, non-time consuming process to make that happen. I'm Thomas Joyner Jr. Thanks for listening on today, and don't forget to come back on next week to talk more about historically Black colleges and universities. Thanks for listening to the new HBCU Ubiquity podcast, and take care.
Sign up and be a part of the team. Be a PodoTron at PodoTron.com. Thank you for listening to PodoTron.